Hey everyone, happy Friday, April 16th. Happy spring. I'm hoping that it's warm wherever you are because it's freezing where I am. Today with me, I have Sunil Godse. Hi, Sunil.
Hey, how are you doing?
So good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, amazing,
Good.
amazing day.
So happy to hear it. And as many of you know and have already listened and watched, Sunil was our guest on this week's episode of the BPP podcast. And first, I just have to say, Rory is not going to be joining us. Sorry, I know you guys love Rory, but he had something he had to take care of. So it's just us today. But the feedback from this episode has been incredible. You guys, you've been sending in so many fun comments and emails. And we're basically gonna put Sunil on the hot seat a little bit.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Ask him some questions here. But before we get started, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to either listen or watch the podcast yet, in this specific episode, Sunil shares basically the power of intuition and how it changed his life, how he went from losing his life savings and ignoring his intuition at the time, which also resulted in his friend being shot and killed, to awakening his intuition within himself and creating this incredible business, Intuitionology, which we'll talk all about. And he also built this epic brand. And so Sunil shares his strategies for just all around how to use your intuition, how to develop your intuition, and how to listen to it, right? That's the key. You have to listen to it. And so some other topics that we go through in this episode, we go over, how to use intuition to guide your life and your business, the importance of listening to both of those, tips for sharpening your intuition on a daily basis, how to follow your intuition when others tell you it's wrong, and how to strengthen your intuition so you never regret the decisions that you've made ever again. So a lot of intuitive talk.
Fantastic.
And Sunil also made me tear up, which is a first for me. When we were doing this episode, part of me thought, should I edit that out? Like, no, because that was very real. We're gonna leave it in there. It was a very sweet moment. And Sunil, your delivery on just really getting to the heart of things is so good. It was
Thank you.
it was fun for me to do this episode with you.
Thank you.
So let's get into some of these questions. Actually, before we do that, before we jumped on here, you were mentioning something new that you're going to be doing here, all about intuitive branding. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the pieces of research that I looked at, and this is both in business and in personal life, is that trust is developed, and the research shows this. Trust is developed between 10 to 14 seconds when it comes to relationships. And it's no different in business. In business, when you have that trust developed between you and those employees, they want to work for you. If you have that between you and your customers, they want to buy from you. And when you have that with the marketplace, that trust, which is based on intuition, the marketplace loves you. And when you have that trifecta, which I call intuitive branding, that's how you crush the competition. And that happens in 10 to 14 seconds. And so I've got a different brand on intuitive branding. I'm launching a new podcast series on intuitive branding, with the first guest being Brendan Kane, who gained 1 million followers in 30 days. The official photographer for Usher at one point. He's dealt with will.i.am, Madonna. Wow. He's coming on because intuition was such a powerful tool for them to open up those doors of opportunity, create trust with those relationships. And that's how they succeeded, by opening those doors of opportunity that came to them. And so I'm really shining a light on this thing with intuition and how it can really encompass it in business, and stories upon story upon story of those people who've actually overcome adversity to really have their businesses take off. And so that's sort of the newest project that I've got going on.
Awesome. I'm super excited for that. That's going to be fun. What's the official name of that podcast? Do you know yet?
Yeah. So it's going to be called Crush Your Competition in 14 Seconds by using intuitive branding. So it's a bit of a long-winded one, but people get a sense when they see that title. Hopefully that drives them down to saying, who is this guy, Sunil Godse, and I'd love to crush my competition.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
Excellent. Oh, that's so wonderful. Really looking forward to that. Okay, so let's see here. So some of the questions we have. All right, here we go. So the first one, Sunil, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. During your extensive intuition research, was there something that surprised you or changed your mind or understanding about intuition as a whole?
The biggest one was how much intuition was really tied to relationships. And when I looked at the research, when I hit the enter button on academic research, there were over 35,000 research articles just on intuition. And when I paired the term intuition and relationships, 2/3 of them had to deal with relationships. And so who you surround yourself with is really, really important. And so it's important to surround yourself with those who move you forward, but it's really important to make sure you use your intuition to let go of those who no longer serve their purpose. That doesn't mean cutting them out of your life, but leveraging their advice, or going back to somebody putting you in trauma, or somebody saying just one sentence, or proving yourself to others, which is a problem for addiction, by the way. And I just had an interview with Tony Robb, who talked about the addictive brain, and it's all about proving to other people who you are. And when it comes to this thing with relationships, hands down, who you surround yourself with is the one that's going to really get you to intuitively, listen to the intuitive signals a lot more intently, because they're clearer. Nobody's there to muddle them. And that's how you don't trust yourself to make some of those decisions.
Yeah. I think that was the point. You brought that up a little bit in the episode. That was the point where I burst into tears. I was like, yes, it's so true. Just the looking for approval. I think as business owners, we're constantly striving for that in one way or another. But for whatever reason, that really hit home with me. I was like, I can let that go.
Yeah, and people want to hear your story. Whether it's in personal life or your business, that's how they you can attract the right people. Those are the ones, when they hear your story, what your purpose is, why you're doing what you're doing, because everybody started something in the personal life or in business because of a reason. That's when you get those engaged people, those are the ones that are going to support you in your path to success. These aren't necessarily just yes people. These are just people that are there for you, and they will give you constructive criticism, but you know that they've got your back.
Yeah, absolutely. Such good advice. It's always so fun chatting with you. Let's see. Okay, next question is let's see. What you discussed on the BPB podcast with Dominica and Rory really resonated with me, but I've never been great at discerning my intuition versus anxiety. Any quick tips?
Yeah, so anxiety is essentially your emotion on overdrive. And what you need really to do is, if you're finding that you're really doing this, one of the things that you put yourself in is called an intuitive medium. And what that is if you think you're being anxious, what you need is just take a step back, go to what I call an intuitive medium, which is a place that you can relax. So some people take a walk. Sometimes I'll sit in the shower before I go to bed, take long drives. Whatever it is for you that gets you to relax, or it could be a couple of things. Then what you want to pay attention to is go through that same decision and think about that signal that comes, because we all have individual intuitive signals. If you listen to the podcast episode, I talked about positive signals and negative signals. And so you can go through that same decision, and if it's a positive signal, which means that your decision that you're about to make is right, then it'll feel like a flow, or the dots connecting. And when it doesn't, when it feels anxious, or there's a rub, or something is just not right, that's anxiety. And so it's really that signal that tells you whether it's actually intuition or whether it's anxiety. And it's very, very easy to find out, because you would have done your homework on what these positive and negative signals are, I hope. And then you know what inventory of signals to pull from.
I have this visual of like this giant bag of like, which is the anxiety, which is the intuition, and pulling from either one. I mean, I can see, and this wasn't the first time this question actually came up, people talking about anxiety versus intuition. Is this a common theme that you see in your business? People asking this question?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially right now, because there's a lot of fear in, especially because a lot of people are having those conversations with themselves. What is my purpose? Where do I want to go? Businesses are having the same thing. Yeah. I've just lost my job. There's a lot of stuff going on at home. How do I really, tap into my intuition to really, really calm myself down? And it is taking that time away from yourself and listening to those signals and mapping out a job, mapping out a career, mapping out the business you want to work for. And it's really kind of mapping out those processes. And we talked about the 7-day challenge, which is one where you can take that 7-day challenge, which is free, and take each and every single problem and go through that 7-step process with your intuition that'll guide you to the right answer And what happens is over time, your anxiousness will go down. The clarity with your intuition is going to come up, and you're going to be a lot more relaxed over time when making decisions. And you're going to be faster at making those decisions because guess what? Your signals are going to be coming up again and again because everybody's got the same inventory of signals. You may discover a few new ones as the more homework you do on your signals, but these are your unique signals and they'll come up again and again. And so over time, you'll just know quickly when that signal comes up. And that's where the anxiousness comes down because you don't let fear take over time, right? It's your intuition. You've got that confidence, the self-confidence. I know what I'm doing, even though you're telling me something else, even though somebody else is trying to put fear in your head. You just know you just take a step back and you've got this. Yeah. And that's when you start moving the anxiousness down, the intuition way up.
Well, then I guess along the same lines, someone was asking here, are we all born with the same capability or level of intuition, or is this something that we all need to work at?
No, we're all born with it. And so if you look at your brain like an iceberg, 90% is underwater, 10% above water, and the 90% below water is the subconscious area of your brain. So every single day, you're taking in, when you're young, 5,000 to 6,000 experiences a day. When you're older, 28 to 35,000, depending upon the research you look at, every single day. That's being put into the subconscious area like a library over time. So that's your experiences, your learning, both formal and street knowledge, your experiences, both formal and informal, all are being put into that area of your brain. Even others who have touched your lives, their failures and successes. So you have this body of this huge library of knowledge that you've gained over time that allows you that when you're making a decision, your intuition goes into this library, picks apart those experiences and learning that are relevant for that decision, and it loads that signal up with all that information. So when you get a positive signal, it is deep with experience saying that I know that you got this. I know that you've got the skills to do this. And conversely, if it's a negative signal, it's going to go, Sunil, you've been there before and that didn't work out well. So don't go down that path. So those signals are really reloaded. We all have it. And what happens is because we have all these people in our lives that don't get us to trust ourselves, those signals are always there, but these people dampen it. And what we need to do is get rid of these people. So we open up the ceiling to these signals. And that's when the whispers are the ones that we want to listen to, because it's those whispers that we don't hear. And when you really shuffle through and you filter your relationships, those whispers become louder. And then you become quicker at listening to your intuition.
I believe that's what Oprah says, right? Like
exactly what she says. Yeah. They're the whispers.
Yep. It's a little whisper, but a really important one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then she goes on to say it becomes a pebble hits you on the side of the head, and then it becomes a brick hits you, and then it becomes a huge disaster because you're just not listening to the progression of intuitive signals that keep changing, by the way. So if you have a whisper and you don't listen to it, it's going to say, Sunil, come on, I'm going to give you something louder. I'm going to change. And ultimately, there's going to be an intuitive signal that it's going to say, you better listen to me now. But you don't want to get to that level because now you've made a series of bad decisions that you're going to have to try and get out of.
So then when we're talking about cutting negativity out, can you go deeper into the ways that we can cut out the noise with the intuitive mediums?
Absolutely. So one of the things that you want to do is when you think about a particular decision, let's say you've got a number of choices that you want to do, right? And so let's say even 7-day challenge, you would have had, if you identify a problem, you would have had 4 things that didn't work in the past. And with each one of those 4, there's a negative intuitive signal associated with it. And so when you're thinking about in the future, think about a problem or a person that you want to evaluate whether that person is someone you want to have a relationship with. What you want to do is think about that person. And when you're doing that, what does it feel like in that moment? And so when you feel what that feeling, is it a rub? Is it negative? Is it something uncomfortable? And if that's the case, then there's one of 2 things that you're going to be doing. One is you're going to say, okay, I'm going to back away. Or the second thing is maybe I need a little bit more information because I think something's still there. And so it could be that you need to get some more information on someone. You need to talk to somebody else, not to convince you otherwise, because if you try that, you're still going to get a negative signal. Then you got a confirmatory negative signal saying you really need to back away or you need some more information. But it's really getting down to those signals and thinking about what does it feel in the moment when I think about X or Y or Z. And ultimately, when you start thinking about the one that says, okay, this step is the right one because I'm getting a positive signal. Okay, from that step, where do I go next? And where I go next? And that's how you think about goal setting. This is how you think about where you want to go in your life, where you want to go in your career, because it's a path. And what you're doing is you're almost like, it's like Hansel and Gretel leaving the breadcrumbs, right? It's breadcrumbs of intuitive signals along the way that are positive that get you to think, okay, here's the path that I want to go. My intuition is saying that's the path. And then the big thing is taking action. Many people don't. They think about it, they get the intuitive signals, and they sit back and they don't do anything with it. And those doors of opportunity are always there, but they're afraid to take action. Maybe because someone said you can't do it, or they don't have confidence in themselves. And in the statistic that I looked at, in a room full of 25,000 people where they have their hands up saying, I'm going to change, only one of them changes. 1 in 25,000 because of fear. It's so low, and it's so important to take action. And those people who have been successful that we read in the papers, that we read in magazines, and we see on social media, guess what? They took action when they were nobody.
Yeah.
Right? They took action. They followed their intuition that got them to where they are.
Rory and I talk about that a lot on this podcast, about basically what's the point unless you're going to take action.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's that is the key. That is the main key to actually, living the life that you desire, is you have to take action, for sure.
Absolutely. And a lot of people talk about there's manifestation. And again, it all depends on how far you want to take intuition, right? So for those who believe in manifestation, that when you think it happens, I mean, The Secret was a book that happened as well. But there's, and I talked to a manifestation expert, Sarah Prout. And so one of the things that we talked about on our podcast interview is the action piece, because you can think about something happening, but if you don't take action, those things don't happen. And so whether you believe that manifestation happens or not, for me, it doesn't matter, as long as when you take action, what happens is the intuition is giving you those doors of opportunity. But when you take action, you actually see the doorknob,
right,
and you turn it open, and then you have to go through it. Otherwise, you're just sitting at a door that's just, the knob is saying, open me, but you're sitting back and taking a look at it, and you'll never reach that opportunity on the other side.
Oh my goodness, we could talk all day. It was such a joy to have you on the podcast. And Sunil has developed a 7-step process that shows you how to sharpen your intuition so that the only decisions you make are the right ones in any situation, that help you move forward in life. And he also created a very special offer for all of our listeners. Can you tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've got the 7-day challenge, and after the 7-day challenge, if you go, there's a couple of courses you can take, and so I've also got some boot camps that I'm going to be going through as well. So if you have a chance to take any of those offers or do a boot camp, willing to offer a 20% discount to those coming on board. So I'll have a very special link that you can get, or a coupon code that I can give Dominica to share with your listeners, and yeah, that discount comes right to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And for all of you watching, we'll be sure to have the link to get that 20% off his programs inside the show notes, as well as on the on all social media. And I'm seeing we've got quite a few views. We have people tuning in on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, guys, for being here with us. That is it for this week. Be sure to go watch and listen to this episode. And again, Sunil, thank you so much for being a guest. It was a joy to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.